Welcome to the Travel and Adventure Show session on packing for road tripping in the USA. My name is Alexandra Jimenez, the editor and founder of TravelFashionGirl.com, and I'm going to be here to help you avoid common packing pitfalls and show you some ways to avoid them. Now, the most common packing mistake by far with road trips is that you can pack everything and the kitchen sink because, well, you don't have any airplane baggage or weight restrictions. So surely you can throw everything in your car, right? Well, big mistake, and I'm going to tell you why and how to avoid that. But first, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I used to work in the fashion industry. In 2008, I quit my corporate job to take a 3-month sabbatical and ended up embarking on a perpetual, never-ending or decade-long travel journey. I've since been to over 50 countries, and I've lived in 4 different countries, scuba dived everywhere, and have a lot of travel experience both for leisure and for business. In particular, a lot of my business travel experiences actually has to do with road tripping in the USA. Because you see, for the first half of that decade-long journey, I would work seasonal jobs driving around the USA promoting products, where I was driving 7 days a week, working 20-hour days. And that also meant that I was staying at different hotels almost nightly, non-stop. It was really draining when you were moving in and out of hotels every other night, especially when you're driving all around the US. In fact, I've driven around the entire country several times for these types of jobs. I've driven anywhere from large SUVs to vans, a 40-foot coach, and the 30-foot box truck here in the picture, which I named Big Bertha. My longest drive was actually with Big Bertha. I drove her from Florida down south through to California, up through California, across the Midwest to New York, back down on the East Coast, Florida, and all the way back to California again. Let's just say I learned a thing or two about when I spent that much time on the road. And the biggest lesson I learned was just because you don't have airplane baggage and weight restrictions, it definitely doesn't mean that you can pack everything and the kitchen sink. A lot of my travels, because they were long-term, they were budget, I backpacked for several years, they were also quite fast. So I also learned the value of packing light. But apparently not enough, because as you can see in this picture here, on my round the world trip that lasted for 9 months, I took a 55-liter backpack and ended up buying a 35-liter day pack while I was traveling to accommodate all the things I had. And unfortunately, this wasn't the heaviest that I could have packed. A 55-liter backpack really isn't too much, but it really started weighing me down. And on top of that, I didn't actually even have everything I needed. So from then on, my goal became to travel lighter. I wanted to be like the male travelers that I would see at train stations, that all they had was one little backpack. They looked so free, they could just get up and go and didn't have to struggle with a bunch of things. I spent over a year researching on the road, interviewing different female travelers, asking them about their experiences, and I found out that they too had a very similar packing frustrations as me. I will say I'm not a packing expert, but I am a reformed overpacker, and in fact, it's my job to make the mistakes so you don't have to. And that job is in fact Travel Fashion Girl. In August of 2012, I launched TravelFashionGirl.com, whose sole goal it is to help female travelers avoid making my packing mistakes. It's the goal to help them travel lighter and more efficiently so they have more stress-free experiences on their travels. And I'm very happy to say that over the past almost 9 years, we've since helped over 30 million women, and pre-pandemic, we had over 1 million monthly visitors, which made us, I think, about the second highest traffic travel blog in the US. So this was obviously a big issue. And then my aim is to tackle it. And I hope with that I can offer you some of my tips that you can apply not just to road trips in the USA, but also while you're traveling in the future internationally or even local as well. Now, the key to avoiding overpacking is all in your research and planning. Now, how exactly do you do that? First things first, for every single trip, check the weather. And when you're on a road trip, you're most likely going to be visiting several destinations, several cities, maybe many national parks. So check the weather for each destination. As you can see in this picture, I just came back from a 2.5, 3-week road trip from driving from Kentucky to Los Angeles and back to Kentucky, stopping in the Utah and Colorado national parks. And it was the last 2 weeks of April, the first week of May. So we're in spring and I'm here in Colorado, as you can see in this picture, with snow still on the ground in some parts of the Garden of Gods in Colorado. So just because it's April doesn't mean that there won't be snow in certain areas. And also it has a lot to do with the way that the regions vary with their elevation. So plan according to the weather. You don't need to pack for everything. You just need to know in advance by checking the extended forecast. You can also go online and look at weather averages in advance so that way you get an idea. A few tips is if you'll be experiencing a wide weather range, which is very common, make sure that you can layer all your clothing so it can be worn together. In particular, if you're going to be encountering colder temperatures like I did on this trip, I always recommend merino wool or silk thermals because those are space savers and can keep you warm under everything, and they hardly take up any space at all. The next thing for you to consider as you're planning your trip is what types of activities will you be doing? Let's say you're visiting all the national parks, and a lot of USA road trips are based on that. If you're visiting national parks but you're not hiking, you don't actually need any specialty clothing. All you have to do is bring what you feel comfortable in, bring items that are appropriate for the weather. Now, if you do plan on hiking clothes are always more practical, but if you're only doing light hiking and you're not doing multi-day treks, then fitness clothing is sufficient. But if you're camping, you do also want to make sure that you bring warm items for the evening. And remember, technical fabrics such as merino wool can be worn repeatedly without washing, and they're warm too. I'm a big fan of merino wool, actually, and merino wool is one of the best fabrics for travel, if not the best one. Now, the other secret to packing light is also doing laundry on the go. If you're traveling for 7 days, for a week or less, even 2 weeks, you may not have to do laundry. You may be able to get away without doing it and still not overpacking. By choosing clothing specifically like merino wool or technical travel clothing, even hiking clothing, those kinds of fabrics are meant to be reworn. They are usually wrinkle resistant. They a lot of times repel scents. So you're able to rewear your clothing repeatedly. And this might not be something that you do at home, but as travelers, especially long-term travelers who pack light, it's a little secret that we all do. The only thing you have to remember is whether you're traveling for several weeks or several months, all you need is 1 week's worth of clothing. And you can do laundry on the go. The way that I accomplish that is by choosing hotels that have on-site laundry facilities. In this trip, for example, I like staying at the Hampton Inns or Holiday Inn Expresses, and they're easy, they're convenient, and they have laundry facilities. You can also specifically look for Airbnbs or vacation rentals with a washer and dryer as an amenity. You can also stay at campsites with laundry facilities. You just have to make sure that at least once a week, so every 6 to 8 days, you're going to be staying somewhere with laundry options. That's all you need. Even if style isn't your priority, taking your outfits into consideration helps you pack only what you need. For example, on a 1-week trip, you can take 7 tops and 3 bottoms. You have 1 clean shirt per day, and then you just rewear your bottoms. So you really don't actually have to do laundry, and you only have to pack 10 items of clothing. In this example, and I say 10 because it's a good average, you can always pack a little bit more and a little bit less. But with the example of 7 shirts and 3 bottoms, it's really easy to see how you can actually get away with traveling with just 10 things. And let's say you're not going to be going to national parks and you're going to be traveling to different cities in the summer and you're a woman, you can just take 7 dresses. one for every day, that's 7 pieces of clothing. So easy. But let's talk about if you are going to national parks and you are going to be doing some hiking. This is an example of my capsule wardrobe for doing the trek to Machu Picchu. A trek to Machu Picchu is 4 days, but I packed the exact same way for my 3-week trip. Now, the 3-week trip, I didn't just take this, but this was the hiking aspect. The hiking, a mini capsule within a capsule. So these were my hiking clothes within that. So as you can see, there's 5 fitness or 5 travel tops and 2 bottoms. So in this example, 5 shirts. I had one for every single day of the hike, plus one that I actually slept with. Then the gray pants on the right that you could see underneath the green shirt, I wore the same gray pants to do the entire trek for 3 days. And on the 4th day, I wore the leggings that I'd been using, that you could see the black leggings. So I had a fresh pair of pants to do the 4th day in, and those were actually what I'd been sleeping in the previous days. So rewearing, reusing, and being very creative. And then also in this example, I have a long sleeve shirt, a waterproof, and a fleece. And those are the pieces that are really important, is that you want to have a couple of pieces, a couple of jackets that you can wear together. So a fleece plus a waterproof, or a warm sweater plus a jacket, whatever that is, you want things you can layer together. And in order to do so, if you're going to be hiking, if you're going to be camping or visiting the national parks and doing any of the trails, high performance travel and hiking fabrics offer the most maximum comfort and use. Always avoid cotton, because cotton, forget about those comfy t-shirts that you get at Target or Walmart, because they're going to get really stinky every single day. You're not going to be able to rewear them. If possible, wear fitness fabrics, but the best option, again, is merino wool or products from travel clothing brands such as Icebreaker, Ibex, Patagonia, Eddie Bauer, North Face, and Columbia. And you can usually find a lot of these brands on sale as well. Now let's talk about shoes. There's shoes, that's always a big issue for any kind of travel. But what do you actually need on a road trip? You need 3 categories of shoes. You need your comfortable shoes, the shoes that you're going to be wearing in your car that are easy to remove, they're comfortable, and you can also use them for general sightseeing. The comfort pair. Then you need the functional shoe. This is the shoe that you're going to be using to hike or walk on the trails. It should have good traction if you're going to go hiking. Then third, you're going to have your wild card. The wild card is a third option, either that it's something you want to dress up for if you're planning to maybe go to Napa, you're going to be going to wine country, and you want to have dressier shoe options. Or perhaps you're going to be having cold and hot weather. So this is where you want to have your either a sandal and or boot, depending on what it is. So you can have 2 comfort shoes or 2 functional shoes. So the wild card can accommodate either or. And also flip-flops if you are camping and using the communal showers. Kind of better to keep those on just in case. Now, 6 factors to consider when you're choosing travel shoes. Do they offer you the support? Are they going to be comfortable? Will you be able to wear them for long hours on the trail or even sightseeing? Usually weight is something that I take into consideration when I'm flying, but when you're hiking, do you really want to have a pair of heavy shoes, heavy boots? Try to find ones that are lightweight. Also, are they durable? Can they handle the trail wear and tear? And even if you're not going to be hiking, I once had a pair of cheap shoes literally fall apart as I walked into a fine dining restaurant, a really nice restaurant, because it started raining and guess what? The shoes are really cheap. So make sure you're taking good quality things with you. And functionality. Are they versatile for your activities? Do you really need sneakers and hiking boots? Can you take one pair of shoes to do both things? I gave you here 3 examples of shoe options. Like if you were only going to pack 3 pairs of shoes, these could be it. So let's say you're traveling and it's going to be cold and it's going to be hot. So you have the walking sandals to hike when it's hot. And then you have the hiking boots to hike when it's cold. Another option is if you're not going to be hiking extensively and doing multi-hour long trails with these steep inclines and rock climbing and whatnot, do you really need a heavy hiking boot? So a cross trainer is a great in between if you just want to have one shoe for light trails. Now we've talked about clothing, we've talked about downsizing your shoes. What about toiletries? Surely, if you're going to be going in the car, you could just grab everything out of your shower, out of your bathroom cabinet, and just throw it in a bag. Well, you could, that'd be easy, but then that's something else, yet another big bag, something else to carry with you every night to the hotel. I would still definitely recommend that you pack as if you were flying, at least with the majority of your items. The best thing to do is lay out all of your grooming and beauty products and really ask yourself what you use on an every single day basis. Is there anything that you can leave behind for a short period of time? Now, the next thing you should do is determine how much product you use on a daily basis. If you have a facial moisturizer, even they usually tend to be in smaller containers, even if they're full-size smaller containers, but it might take you a month or a couple of months to go through that. So do you need to bring the whole thing, even if it's relatively small? You can actually get a smaller little container. These are clear plastic things you can order on Amazon for bulk, and they're relatively inexpensive. They come in about, I think, 25 grams, 10 grams and whatnot. And they are great for taking things such as facial moisturizer, facial cleaner, foundations, concealers, things that you really don't need a large quantity of. So be aware about how much product you actually use. I will say that if you're traveling with a group, having one shower kit for everyone. So one shared body wash, shampoo, conditioner, instead of everybody having their massive toiletry kit. If everybody just shares that one, you get to the hotel, one person's in charge of taking it out, but leaving it in the shower, everybody can use it. Somebody else is in charge of taking it out in the morning, putting it back in the car. So not everybody has all their little products. So that can work. And that's when full-size products do make sense. A few more tips on how to do that. A lot of us women have our 7-step, 10-step Korean skincare routines, but can you just downsize it to maybe eye cream and moisturizer? 2 steps for the road. So think about what you're willing to give up temporarily. You can also use hotel toiletries if and when possible. I wash my hair every 2 to 3 days. So I don't need shampoo every single day. So I don't also need to bring it on the road with me. If I'm staying at hotels, that's something that I use, but I also like to reduce my waste, my plastic waste if possible. So let's say I only use half a bottle of the shampoo. Well, then I'll just take that with me to the next hotel, and I won't take the toiletries from the next stop. I'll just use the one that's left over from the previous one. That way I'm just minimizing my waste a little bit. Now, multi-use products are an awesome way to cut down on a lot of things as well, such as coconut oil. I love coconut oil because you can cook with it if you're planning to cook as you go. You can use it in your hair. You can use it as a facial moisturizer, as a body moisturizer. So that's an awesome multi-use product. But unless you're going to be gone for a while, do you really need a big jar? I know a big jar lasts me forever, so you can still decant that into a 100 ml or 3-ounce container, as you can see here in the picture. The next secret to packing more in less space are packing cubes. Packing cubes are a huge packing hack, especially if you know how to utilize them to the best advantage. Now, they offer organization, which is fantastic, especially on a road trip where organization is essential. But they can also offer compression, which means that you can actually put more stuff in a smaller bag. I use packing cubes to organize and avoid chaos and simplify on road trip stops. My disclaimer, I do own the Compass Rose carry-on packing cubes. Those are my own packing cubes, it's my line. And I've designed them so they provide extra organization. As you can see in this picture, they're color-coded, so each set has 2 colors, and they're number-coded, because that way, whether you're traveling on a road trip or you're traveling abroad, you can organize your belongings based on activity, category, weather, city. Now, if you're going to be encountering 2 different weather systems, you could use the red ones for hot weather, the gray ones for cold weather. For this trip that I just went on, I used the first packing cube just for the clothes that I was going to be using the first week, because the first week of the road trip from Louisville, Kentucky to Los Angeles, there's going to be a lot of driving and not so much hiking. So I only took the comfortable clothing, a couple of leggings, a couple of comfortable tops, and that was what was in my number 1 packing cube. So that meant that every single night, that's all I had to look for. I didn't have to rummage through all of my stuff. I knew that the clothing I was going to need that first week that it was a number 1. In the second packing cube, that's where I had just the clothing for Los Angeles. The clothing for Los Angeles wasn't going to be hiking or the comfy stuff that I was just going to be using to sit in on the car all day. It was a little bit different then. It was going to be for the rest of my trip. But I was only in LA for 2.5 days. So I didn't need that much stuff. So whatever was just for that part of the trip, or the things that I could wear in LA or maybe another city that I would stop in, they were in number 2. And in the third packing cube, this is going to be the third part of my trip. So it was basically the first part of the trip was driving, then LA, and then hiking, going to all the national parks. So number 3 had the capsule wardrobe that I showed you, that similar capsule wardrobe with a couple of trail hiking leggings and different hiking travel tech tops. So about 4 or 5 tops. I think I had 4 or 5 tops and a couple of bottoms in number 3. And number 4 had my bras and underwear. I'm going to go ahead and show you this video to give you an example about exactly how to maximize the use of packing cubes. Example of how to use the packing cubes. But as you could see, the main thing is that I fold them, then I roll them, then I push them into the packing cube and kind of squeeze them in as if it was a compression sack. And my particular cubes are made with really strong YKK zippers and fabric to make sure that you can do it without them ripping or the zippers breaking. So that's kind of the added benefit. But this technique has helped millions of women pack lighter for trips all over the world. This is another video that I actually filmed on this road trip to show you what I actually brought into the hotel on a nightly basis. Day 2 of the road trip, just woke up and getting ready to leave, but I really wanted to quickly show you what I brought into the hotel. So on a road trip, you want to really bring as little as possible into the hotel. So I brought my carry-on and my personal item, and that's actually the clothing that I packed, aside from jackets, that I packed for this 3-week trip. So in my personal item, actually in here is where I have the clothing that I'm actually going to need for this first week, for the driving days. So I've got my Capsule's packing cubes in here, and you can see that I've got, what do I have in here? One packing cube has underwear and bras and some socks, and the other one has my driving day outfits. So that's in here, although I might just rewear the same clothes, to be honest with you. So I don't have to open up this bag. All I had to open this bag up for was for my toiletries. I had my toiletry stash right here and right here on the top. So that's really easy because you don't have to unpack everything, pack everything. I also kept my pajamas on this exterior pocket, so it was just nice and accessible, easy to get my pajamas at the end of the night. And if it was too cold, I kind of kept my thermal layers on the other side of the other pocket. That way I could just kind of layer up, which I ended up being cold last night, so I'm really glad that I had my thermals on the outside pocket. And that's it. Now I can just get up and go get ready really easily without having to rummage through my entire bag, disrupt things, make it chaotic. And a few things that I need are in here. And like I said, to be honest with you, it's like it's 2 long driving days, not really sightseeing days today, so I might just rewear the clothing that I had on yesterday. So I just kind of hung it up here because I was so tired I couldn't even put it in hanger, but I just wanted to put it somewhere lightly. So I'll just probably rewear much of that. Maybe I'll just change my top and of course my compression socks for the road trip as well. So that's it, ladies. Just trying to pack as light as possible. And then here's my purse, as you could see. So I didn't bring a major purse. So I need everyday essentials are just in my tiny little bag here. Even for a 2.5, 3-week trip, I still took a carry-on and a personal item as the main for the main parts of my clothing and my shoes. What exactly is a personal item? So a personal item is just a backpack or a small duffel, something smaller that that's not going to take up a lot of room, that you can easily access just your essentials on a nightly basis. Organizers are great to help you avoid digging through the bottom of your luggage to find the one thing you need. For example, I had everything organized in packing cubes, and it was great. I didn't have to rummage through my suitcase every day, whereas my partner, he didn't actually use packing cubes. He kind of just folded everything, and he didn't actually organize anything and everything in a particular order. He just packed in the suitcase. So every single day he had to go through looking through all his clothes, and he found that a little bit frustrating. So he did mention that was a lesson that he learned on this road trip. By researching the weather at your destination, determining the clothing that you'll need for your specific activities, creating a capsule wardrobe, and downsizing your toiletries, it should be very possible for you to travel in just a personal item and a carry-on per person. This will allow you to have more room for other road trip supplies. We've spoken about clothing, shoes, all of your personal belongings, because let's face it, that's what usually is the hardest to pack. You need to be ready for everything. But now that I've explained how you can be ready for everything and do it in a small suitcase, let's talk about everything else you need for the road trip. Food, gear, supplies, the kitchen sink. I'm going to show you a video of how exactly I packed for this road trip, where we were staying not just in hotels, it also has camping supplies, road trip supplies, and everything we needed. All packed for the road trip, heading out from Louisville all the way to Los Angeles, with making stops along the way. Have clothing and shoes and a carry-on per person. So we're still kind of packing as if we were flying, but heavier without a weight restriction. So size-wise, limited ourselves to a carry-on and a personal item each. Now, what's the rest of the stuff here? Well, we have some hiking stuff. So a couple of hiking things here. All of the camping things are here on the side. So it looks crazy messy, but it's kind of organized. Stuff for the campsite, kitchen, cooking things, and sleeping things. So because the first week we're just going to be driving and just stopping along the way, but not camping, all of the camping stuff is in the back. And anything we just need for the hotel, which is carry-on and personal item, easy access, so we don't have to take everything out. Now, quick note, when you're going in and out of a hotel every single night, you don't want to go and rummage through your main pack. So anything that we need for quick stops in hotels is in each person's personal item. And then these things will just be open as needed. As you can see, we had a Jeep Wrangler SUV, and it was just for 2 people with all the gear, and it took up a lot of room in the trunk. And we actually didn't pack as efficiently as we could have. We could have easily fit 2 more people in the vehicle comfortably if each person just took a carry-on and a personal item. So it is possible to do, but things very quickly take up space, and that was with 2 people and an SUV. What actually takes up all your space in the vehicle? Camping gear, cooking supplies, and food. So let's determine what kind of trip you're going to be taking. If you don't need any of the above, congratulations. If you're not camping, you're not planning to cook on the go, you've got plenty of space. You should be perfectly fine just with your carry-on personal item, maybe a small cooler, and that's it. Small, like a four-door standard car is probably good enough for 3 to 4 people. But if you're planning to camp, then you probably need some more space if you're with an SUV or van, if it's going to be several people in that vehicle. The type of accommodation you book has everything to do with the way you pack. And I will admit that this was one mistake, or one thing I would have liked to change about the trip that I just went on. I wanted to camp, and I intended to camp half of the trip, but because of the weather, it really wasn't a possibility. And I wanted to push my luck and really try to make that happen. But I should have been more realistic and just realized, hey, camping's not going to be possible for the majority of this trip. So instead of packing all of the camping stuff, why don't we just leave that for another trip and focus just on hotels? So we could have minimized there was a lot of stuff that was only used once, if at all, on that car for this road trip. So ask yourself, determine, are you staying at hotels, motels, Airbnbs, an RV, camper? Will you be camping or glamping? Because if you have a certain type of accommodation, you may or may not need a bunch of stuff in your car. If you're going to be staying at hotels or motels, which is really, and especially on a fast-paced trip, I really appreciate just being able to go into a hotel, don't have to worry about going to vacation rental and dealing with messaging a host. I can get there anytime. If I want to drive a little bit further, I can get there later, earlier, whatever it is, but I don't have to worry about anything. So hotels and motels are the easiest to pack for. You don't have to take a bunch of supplies. Really simple. And here's a tip. Choose a hotel that offers a hot breakfast so that way you only have to think about lunch and dinner. And I usually take a yogurt and a bagel, maybe a muffin as well, to take with me on the road as a snack or for a light lunch afterwards. So this is the most space-saving option, and at the end of a long day, it is comfortable. Now, if you're traveling with a family, then it probably makes more sense to stay at Airbnb or vacation rentals because you tend to have more space and more rooms for the same price as a one-room hotel room. Plus, you get a kitchen where you can cook. I would recommend that you consider a more slow-paced trip if you are planning to cook because that does take up a lot of time and you don't want to do that. You're in and out every single night. But I will recommend that you check the amenities for the Airbnb in advance and contact the host to ask what type of food, what type of cooking essentials they offer, or if they have basic things like cooking oil, salt, pepper, seasonings, pots, pans, coffee maker, or even coffee, that kind of stuff. So that way you don't actually have to bring that in your car as well. An RV or camper fan will have space for cooking essentials. More than likely, you're going to want to cook on the go. But keep in mind that space is still limited. You want to avoid taking full-size cookware, your fully stocked kitchen pantry, and just take the essentials. Find tiny home supplies, smaller, more compact pots and pans. And the reality is you only need a pan or two just to cook the essentials and enough dishware for the people traveling with you. This is the case whether you're RVing, camping. One of the ways, if you are camping or glamping, to save space is to take dehydrated meals such as Good to Go or adventure meals by Right on Trek. All you do is have to add boiling water. This is actually really awesome for a camper like me that wants it to be easy and not complicated. And on a faster paced trip, we didn't have time to just hang out at the campsite for a leisurely meal. We were exhausted, we just wanted to eat, and this made our lives a lot easier. And these particular brands try to make healthier, nicer tasting options for pre-made meals, dehydrated meals. So this was a really good solution. And it also meant that we didn't really need to bring a cooler and have a bunch of ingredients as well. Now, if your style is more relaxed at a slower pace, you're planning to cook at your campsite, whether it's a steak and veggies, salads, whatever it is, just be prepared to have a larger cooler in your car, but do save space by trying to buy things as you go along. At the very minimum for camping, you're going to need a small propane stove, 1 to 2 pans with a lid, I forgot my lid, paper towels, and enough dishware for all the travelers. We didn't use the majority of the things that we brought along to cook. What I failed to realize when I was looking at YouTube videos on, what should I take when I'm camping? What should I take for road trips is that the people who I was whose camping videos I was looking at, they were actually camping in one campsite for several days, and they were staying there the whole day, having a leisurely day, cooking a bunch of food, and that's just not the type of trip that I was going to have. So it's really important to understand the difference between the type of trip that you might be seeing or recommendations you might be reading online and determining if they align with your type of trip. That's really important. I keep touching on food because food takes up a lot of space. I overpacked so much food for this trip. I'm not a big snacker, and I brought a million snacks. And the truth is, when I'm on a road trip, there are only 2 things that I really like to munch on in the car: sunflower seeds and gummy bears. It's so random, and I only eat them when I'm on a road trip. So neither of these things I packed from home. I just bought them as I went if I needed them. But it was really silly of me to pack a huge bag full of food and supplies and snacks when I'm not even a huge snacker. Know how you like to eat and plan accordingly so you don't have to overpack. You might also surprise yourself and want to eat out more often if this is in your budget, because eating in the US and discovering diners and treasures and really unique meals. It's a big part of a road trip as well. And in this case, this was in the very beginning of our trip in Hays, Kansas, and I was set on eating very, very healthy. And when I went on Google and searched for best restaurant in Hays, I discovered that there was a diner with a mac and cheese burger. I kind of love mac and cheese, and I couldn't say no. So this was amazing, and it was one of the best burgers I've ever had in my life. So totally worth it, but it was also really fun. It was definitely a good memory. It was an unexpected highlight of the trip. And of course, you may not be into mac and cheese the way I am. So you can search online for best vegan food in Phoenix, Sedona, wherever you are, healthy meals in the city, or best restaurants. So you can find things that make sense for your dietary needs. Now remember, organizing your supplies and your luggage in an efficient way help to create a stress-free road trip experience, especially when you're going to be moving around and going to multiple destinations. And here's a tip from the reader. Toss a laundry basket into your trunk and put all the things in it you'll need during the trip, but don't need to carry into the hotel every single night, such as beach towels, umbrellas, sunscreen, bug spray, hiking boots, hats, laundry soap, etc. And we also did that. We had a bin that we left in the back seat with just random things that we needed for the day, and we just didn't bother taking anything, like I said, aside from the suitcase and personal item to the hotel every night. This is a picture of a guest author that I had on the blog that gave travel tips, and she was either traveling alone or with one other person. So this is how she organized her vehicle. Had a large cooler in the bag, sleeping bag, sleeping tent it looks like. I think maybe she was sleeping in the car. And she had a double plastic container with the essentials in there. If you look at the top right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the Sterilite type bins that are clear. The clear is better so you can see what's inside, and with the little clickable lids, so that way they won't just fall off very easily. And the one thing I do want to mention that was one of the things that I discovered on this trip is using the food containers, plastic food containers, instead of things like Ziplocs or even camping plates, because these containers could be used for everything. I was able to, if I opened up, let's say, a bag of pretzels, I could put them back in one of these containers and then know that they weren't going to get all over the car, or they weren't going to get smashed underneath a bag. The other thing they were used for is I used them as plates instead of using camping plates. These were awesome to just eat the meals when we did camp, because, well, they're bowls, so they can carry the food, and they had the portion was perfect. But in addition to that, at the end of the night, because we didn't want to wash at 9 p.m., 8 o'clock when it was dark, we were able to just put the lids back on, and we didn't have to worry about having dirty food or dirty dishes kind of dirtying everything else. So that was really nice, keeping that contained. And lastly, the other thing is I had a larger one that I used for trash in the car. And I read all these articles about bringing plastic bags for this and that, and I barely used a plastic bag. I think I used one per campsite, and that was it for trash, because I was throwing things away as I went. So I loved having a big, one of these big containers with a lid, because throughout the day, if there was a little trash, I put it in there. I didn't have to worry about things getting sticky in the car or falling out, because it was all with the lid closed, and it didn't matter. Every time I went to the gas station, threw it out, or at the end of the night at the hotel, threw it out, had a nice little empty, and it wasn't that big. It was just about this big, but it was one of my favorite things, actually, to keep the car clean and clutter-free from trash. Also, remember to organize your car by order of use or accessibility. You don't want to put your luggage all the way in the back. Because we weren't going to be accessing the camping stuff until the second part of the trip, we put it in the back, and we had our luggage right in the front. And here's a tip. Bring a dark blanket sheet or a tarp to cover your belongings during the day or overnight, because to try to avoid theft and shield the fact that you have everything in the back. We actually did bring a blanket that was meant for camping, and we used it to cover all of our stuff every single day. So that was really helpful. Now, before we wrap up, I just wanted to share a few useful and unexpected products that I felt that I had on this trip. The dark blanket I already mentioned, baby wipes, and this might seem pretty standard, and obviously I had disinfectant wipes as well, but I like the baby wipes because it was all purpose to clean your hands, wipe sunblock and sand and dirt off your face at the end of the day, clean the dishes if you need to, even clean the car and wipe it down from sticky food residue or the Utah red dust rock coming in. So that was really nice. I did mention my empty container for trash. A multi-tool is always a great basic. Has a wine opener, bottle opener, a little knife that you could use to open up random things, or we used it when we had firewood to kind of clip off a little bit of wood to get the fire started. A foldable tote was something I threw in last minute, and it was really good. I initially threw it in there just for gas station buys, so I wouldn't have to get a plastic bag at a gas station every single time. But I ended up actually using it for laundry and for carrying extra things into the hotel room that I may have not thought about at the end of the day. And then a 2-liter water bottle was awesome. And I've previously also traveled with a water filter because I don't love, I drink a lot of water, but I don't like buying water bottles. And this was great because I had my 2-liter water bottle every single day at the hotel. I would fill it up in the purified, either at the water station, they had a purified water dispenser, and then you can also find it sometimes in their gyms. I wasn't working out, but I went into the gym to actually use their water dispenser. So I was able to fill it up every night, every day, and I didn't have to buy any water, which was awesome. Not only did I save money, but I didn't have to waste plastic as well. You can also use the same thing. Previously, I've also had a water filter pitcher, so just get to the hotel, get some tap water, filter in the fridge, pour it. But I really like this, what I did this time as well. Now, I also wanted to mention a few tools that the readers love that I didn't necessarily find particularly helpful, but I want to mention them because people do find them helpful. A female urinal cup or device. It's a lot of people find it helpful because so that way they can use the bathroom in random places without having to expose themselves. I actually found that despite the fact that I drink a lot of water and constantly need restroom stops, because of that, I actually never needed to stop on the side of the road to use the bathroom. There was lots of rest stops and everything. So some people find that helpful. I didn't find it useful for this particular trip, but also if you're not a fan of sitting down at gas station bathrooms, then as a woman, you might want to use one of those as well, if that's important to you. Another item that people recommended was a little water boiling thing. I forgot the name right now. There's a little device. You just plug it in, there's a piece of metal attached to it. It goes into the mug or the whatever it is to boil water. And then you can have a cup of coffee or tea at the end of the day because some people don't want to use the coffee maker at the hotel. So there is that option. I mean, you could use it when you're camping. You want to plug it in somewhere as well to boil water easily. The other thing that was recommended was an inverter so you can plug things in like laptops or your phones to charge them. I ended up buying this device but didn't realize that the Jeep that we were traveling in already had this built in. So we didn't really need to use this. But if you're traveling with several people, then it might be helpful to have somewhere for everyone to be able to charge their devices. So there's that. Now, I previously on other road trips have taken my pillow so that way I can sit down on it. And I'm really short, so that way it can prop me up and it'll be a little bit more comfortable to sit on or for my back. And I also wanted to bring my memory foam pillow for camping. So for camping, it was great, but I only used it a couple of times for that. During the car, I actually found that the pillow was really uncomfortable and made my back hurt more. So that ended up being a waste of space in the car. And the next thing is a big cooler. This is something that I see in so many of the videos that I saw that I was researching on what to bring on a road trip or what to take camping. Again, that's why I really stress what are your eating habits, because previously on a previous road trip, I loved having one of these. You can connect the coolers and keep things cold. I had one that was half the size. This is obviously a little bit larger, and people love this. So if you want to have fresh food, cold drinks, ice, and whatnot, this might be an ideal product for you. For this particular trip, a big cooler wasn't necessary for me. I actually took a small one, but I was really worried because I didn't have a big cooler like the ones recommended in the list. And at the end of the day, I didn't even need the small one. So just again, back to really being realistic about your needs. And a few safety essentials, because at the end of the day, you don't need a bunch of stuff for a road trip. You really don't need to plan for every contingency, but you do need to have a few safety essentials. An emergency auto kit with the basics, flares, jumper cables, something to fix a flat tire, and an ice scraper. A couple of extras if you'd like, emergency blankets and a 2-way emergency radio set, but at least have the basics. You also want to sign up for roadside assistance with your insurance company or AAA, and that's something that doesn't take up any space in your car. Also, another thing that takes up no space is to make sure your car is maintenance if you're driving your own vehicle, which I was. An LED flashlight or headlamp, which is great for camping, but also great for a night emergency. So that's also a really good item to have in your car. Side tip, know how to read a map and not just listen to Google Maps. You can get printed maps as well. But in this case, I found out that my partner really relied a lot on Google Maps, but because I used to drive around the country for work for so many years, I didn't need I could really easily guide myself while we were driving without actually needing Google Maps to do so. So everybody reads maps differently, so might be a good thing to kind of learn how to read one. And if you're traveling in the winter, one of our readers recommended a portable propane heater, an indoor safe propane heater, and a few cylinders of fuel to keep warm without running your vehicle in case of an emergency. So a few safety things to keep in your car. But again, just remember, downsize your belongings. Pack only the essential gear that you need if you're going to be hiking, camping. But for a road trip, you don't really need as much as you probably think you do. Now, if you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram at Travel Fashion Girl. You can also join the community and the conversation at Facebook. We have a free Facebook group. It's called Travel Fashion Girls. It's just for women. Sorry about that if there's any men interested in joining, but you can always send me a question via Instagram. And obviously visit travelfashionGirl.com for more packing tips. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope these tips will help you pack a little bit lighter for your road trips and also for your future trips internationally and locally as well. Safe and stylish travels.